You're listening to AudioMag, Magazines Canada's podcast. I'm Chris Chambers, Retail Accounts Manager at Magazines Canada. I'm here today with Janine Vangool, the publisher, editor, designer, writer, creator of Uppercase and Little U magazines. Janine, thanks very much for talking to us today.
Thanks for having me.
I've known Janine since about 2013. I figured it out, Janine. I went back and looked at when the first issue of Uppercase was distributed by Magazines Canada. So I remember the meeting that we had, and most of all, well, I remember meeting you, Janine. But I remember why I'd sort of been pursuing you because in almost all of the good stores that I visited, there were stacks of your magazine, and once I learned that you weren't with another distributor, I thought, well, that would be a good magazine for Magazines Canada to have, and happily we've been distributing the magazine, and you've been with Magazines Canada since number 19. Uppercase is a quarterly, and. So yeah, that's by my calculation, 27 issues and more than 12,000 copies sold, which averages, just less than 500 copies in a quarterly issue. Incredible. For those who aren't familiar with Uppercase and Little U, why don't you give us a quick description of them and the specific community that you're reaching through your magazine?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. So let's see. Uppercase started in 2009. And back then, Uppercase was actually a physical place. It was called Uppercase Gallery Books and Paper Goods. So I had a retail location in downtown Calgary. And because of that, I was always experimenting with products to have for sale. And so I did have some paper products and things that I designed because I'm a graphic designer by trade. And then, retail was tough back then for me as a small studio art gallery. And I also did graphic design for clients. And I was just looking for ways to use my skills as a designer and combine those with the editorial and curatorial skills that I was gaining by having a gallery. So I've always wanted to publish my own things. And so the Uppercase magazine started. And so it was kind of came out of the idea of graphic designers are creative in all sorts of ways. So they're influenced by craft and typography and illustration. And then more broadly, it just became the magazine for the creative and curious. Mm-hmm. So it is this, that if you're inspired by creativity and you're a creative person yourself, that you can find inspiration in all sorts of different expressions of that. So that's a broad explanation of where Uppercase came to be. Yeah. And it's refined itself over the years for sure.
Sure, yeah, because I mean, I certainly don't see it or feel it as a magazine strictly for graphic designers. It's much broader than that, and I'd love for you to sort of describe the type of community that's Uppercase has, and mm-hmm. I guess what inspired you to want to build a community centered on the creative?
Well, it did come out of that idea of curating different gallery shows, mm-hmm. for example, and the idea of bringing together diverse creative people around a particular theme, for example, which is what I did in the very early issues of the magazine. And at the time, my kind of circle of people I knew were mostly graphic designers and illustrators. But as the magazine has grown, and so has the circle of creative people that I have gotten to know, and a lot more of them are in the craft domain, for example. And it just seems to be a common thing with my readership that they're creative in one area, perhaps for their more professional lives, but they are multi-passionate about all sorts of different creative endeavors. So that's kind of the hallmark of my readers, is they just love lots of different things. So for me, that's super fun because I can put content in the magazine that it might be a little unexpected, but people will still embrace it and find it interesting and inspiring.
Yeah. Now, was it important that you create a sort of feedback loop with the readers to build a community, or did it just sort of organically grow and the back and forth that it feels that just flipping through an Uppercase feels like, and that it just the way it covers so much, so the territory that it covers and the themes. Mm-hmm. I mean, did it come out of? You must have a lot of contact with your contributors and your subscribers. It feels like there's a blend there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and certainly the very first issues were supported by, like, I had a blog for my gallery, and that's how I had kind of a waiting audience. So there were the local people who'd come into my gallery, but then also people would read the blog, and I would sell the artwork for shows online as well. So, and that was in the days of when blogging was like interesting and fun, and the days of Flickr and such, before Instagram and Twitter and any of those things, or maybe Twitter was around. I guess Twitter was around, but I didn't use it very much. So it was always supported by those wonderful, eager people who were ready to subscribe to the magazine, sight unseen at that point, to take a chance and to support this endeavor financially. So I've always felt that it's a collaboration with those creative people, and I try to feature as many subscribers as I can in the issue. So there's always open calls, and I through my weekly newsletter, I'm always asking people for participation, and they're welcome to pitch their ideas. And so over time, that has really become a key way for creating content and gathering participation, and ultimately it just really helps maintain that relationship of support, because I'm like able to support my readers, and they're able to support it through their subscriptions. So yeah.
I love it. Now, I love this, starting with the gallery shop and and growing. So, I mean, that's literally your community was coming in to visit, and then so can you carry that through, because you're such a good communicator, Janine. So when did the gallery shop close?
Well, yeah, around 2009 is when the first issue came out, and I was already thinking it was time to put the retail part on hiatus. Lots of reasons, like the particular location and the building that I was in was kind of going through some ownership transitions, and kind of the original theme of the space, which was multiple galleries and such, was kind of floundering. And then in 2010, I became a mother, so there's only so many things I could do. So the retail aspect was like the first thing to just like, okay, that chapter is closed. It was fairly easy to do once a decision was made, just to concentrate on publishing.
Gotcha. And then, so as far as communicating or interacting with the Uppercase community after the gallery shop closed, so was it social? Was it big? Are you big social media? Can you talk about how it's evolved? And what I'm leading to is your newsletters, which I receive, and they just seem so they're so lovely and effective. It seems, but. But let's. So you're a new mom. The shop is closed. You're making a quarterly magazine. Mm-hmm. How are you communicating with the audience?
Okay. Well, in addition to the magazine, I have to say that I also publish books, and so I actually started publishing books before I launched into the magazine. I had a few titles already, so my customers and my readers knew that I could create something that was, really polished and well designed and such. So the decision to create a magazine was to hopefully create some more like stability and to have a routine. And I didn't know what I was getting into as far as how much work it would be, but I thought, oh, sure, I could have a family and a quarterly magazine. Seems like it's possible. So,
and so you did.
I just did it. Yeah. So as far as building that audience, in the early days, it really was about the blog, and reaching out to people, and then they would, I'd ask them, well, thank you for being part of this magazine. Can you please also post it on your blog? And just kind of that organic method. And then I was on Twitter in the earlier days of Twitter. It was very useful for communication, and it was good to drive sales over to my website. And then I embraced Instagram when that was first starting. So I've tried all of those things. Facebook momentarily. And at certain times I did have people working with me, and someone who was doing the kind of the community outreach, social media type stuff. But ultimately in 2014, it wasn't going well financially speaking. I just had too many expensive, too many people, not enough sales. And so I had to do a reboot and start over. So it was just down to me again, doing customer service management, social media, marketing, newsletter, all that stuff. So I took an online business course, marketing course from Marie Forleo's B School. And that was really life-changing in that it changed the course of my business, because I had no training up to that point about how to market and how to be a business person. So I learned a lot, and I immediately did a launch of a weekly newsletter. Right. And just started out explaining where I was at and what I had to do, and the unfortunate situation of having to lay people off, and kind of just the struggle of where things were at, but that I was committed to making sure that Uppercase magazine was going to continue forward. Right. And then from there, I've just been sending out that weekly newsletter every Tuesday. I missed a few here and there, but it is very much a discipline. And that has been the main source that has grown my subscribership and readership over the years.
Interesting.
Coupled with Instagram. But that the discipline of sending out the newsletter and being really forthright and direct with my readers has been the key to the growing success of the magazine. Yeah,
you have that. There's that subtle call to action that appears in those newsletters. Sometimes it's true. Any advice you have for a magazine looking to improve their own sense of community, Janine?
Well, I think you have to know exactly who your community is so that you can serve them most appropriately. So if you don't really know who your people are, and you actually don't have relationships with them, that's going to be hard to grow it. So I suggest really getting to know who they are and why they are interested in what you're doing.
Sure.
And that's the first step. And then the second step would be to be consistent and to live up to the expectations that you set out publicly to your readership and to your audience, because they want to rely on you. Because if they're going to trust you with their money of subscribing for a year or two, then they want to know that trust is well placed. So I think those are the two things that you need to do.
For sure. If you're feeling comfortable with it, do you mind sharing something that you wish you knew when you first started Uppercase? Back in 2008?
Yeah. I think I just like learning by doing. So there are a few things that went awry here and there, but I've always course corrected. And it makes me stronger, and it's good to have a few bumps in the road, I think. So I don't know. I don't really look back, to try and give advice to my former self or something. I just make sure that in the time that I have, I'm as educated as I possibly can about making a decision, and then I make a decision and I move forward.
Just before we wrap things up, Janine, do you mind sharing with us your greatest feel-good moment that's come out of this community of magazine readers that you've created?
Well, there are a lot of feel-good moments, and they happen in little micro moments throughout the day with people sending me really nice messages. So that's super sweet. But a really important moment, a turning point, when I mentioned back in 2014, I had to do a reboot, and I had sent out my message to my newsletter list saying kind of the financial woes that I was experiencing. and a gentleman in Calgary who prefers to be anonymous. He showed up at my office door, and he had an envelope with $1,000 in it, and he gifted me that money.
Oh,
And so
amazing.
you really, that sort of dedication and generosity and selflessness is just cannot be topped. And
Wow.
that was just an amazing moment.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
really set the tone for making sure that Uppercase could continue and do it in a way that was sustainable for me and financially. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful for him.
Oh, that's beautiful. I feel like Alberta has it's a vibrant magazine community, and it's what a great story. Thanks for telling us that.
Yeah, it was a special moment.
Fantastic. Where can people find out more about Uppercase? Do you have anything that you would like to plug? Any upcoming release dates that folks should be aware of?
Sure. I'm working on issue 47 right now, and so that'll be out for October, November, December. And I'm also working on my Uppercase Encyclopedia of Inspiration, and that's an ongoing series of books that they're like a deep dive into a particular topic. So right now I'm working on one about ceramics, and there's 46 different profiles of ceramicists of various styles and influences. And it's a 416-page book. Now it's going to go to print in a couple of weeks and should be out beginning of October.
Man,
So that's
416
exciting.
pages. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I don't have enough room in a 116-page magazine to do everything, so I have this other series of giant books.
Oh, amazing.
And then, of course, Little You is that's been a sweet project to have, and I collaborate with my son on the content for that one, and we're working on a third one that will come out in early 2021.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Janine, so much for speaking to me today, and just want to say, talking is one thing, but please, for any people listening that are not aware of Uppercase, check out the world of Uppercase. We got number 46 is in stores now, as well as Little U number 2 should be in good stores right now. Take it from me, the distributor. And again, great to talk to you, Janine. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, and thanks for getting it out there for Canadians to see. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review AudioMag on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Magazines Canada on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Mags Canada, and on LinkedIn as Magazines Canada for more magazine news and resources. Thanks for listening, and thank you again to Janine for joining us today. AudioMag is a Magazines Canada podcast produced by Messenger Bag Media. We recognize the funding of the Canadian Department of Heritage through the Canada Periodical Fund.